Hey everybody, welcome to what's going to be another exciting Zinni 62 for one reason, and one reason only. The man I still call boss to this day, and it's been a long time. The man I still call boss to this day. Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris is my honored guest, and Elihu, it's been a while. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Hey, I'm down in Palm Desert, California.
Oh, wait a minute. That means your Palm Desert burning up and blazing, right? You're hot, right?
Yeah, Palm Desert air conditioning.
What brings you to? Well, you realize. Wait, are you visiting Mark Davis? You know he lives down there.
Well, hey, he doesn't live in my neighborhood.
Well, did you move down there now?
No. I've had a house down here for about 7 or 8 years.
Oh, okay. Oh man.
I usually only come down in the winter. It's warm down here. It's like 75, 80 degrees in January and February, and it's nice. It even freezes your butt off.
I heard that. Wow. So it's when you're down there, what's it like being around? That's mostly Republican, isn't it? Or is it?
Not so much. Coachella Valley is about 600,000 people, and it goes from Palm Springs out to on one end, all the way out to Indio on the other end, and and so it's mostly older people and many retirees, young families. Indio, and it's mostly black and brown. But the point is that it's a much different mix than it was even 20 years ago.
Wow. Is it more diverse? More
not really more diverse, but more progressive. Mm-hmm. And certainly no longer. The congressperson here is a Democrat. We're in the middle of Riverside County. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's an old Palm Springs, Palm Desert when you had Sonny Bono as Congress.
Well said. Well said. Hey, I got to ask you, since you mentioned the parties down there and the split in the demographics, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. I didn't expect to ask this question, but it has to do with the state Democratic convention that was in Oakland, and the party backing Kevin De Leon and not Diane Feinstein by a huge margin, and I was shocked. What are your thoughts about that development?
Well, I think two issues. One, many of the people were activists in the Democratic Party, not the registered voters at large. Think A, she's too old. B, she's been there too long. C, it's time for a change.
Mm-hmm. But do you think that the electorate will agree with that? Or in other words, did the party?
No, she'll get 60% of the vote.
Have we, as a party, moved too far to the left, or where are we? Where are we as a Democrat?
The activist base has always been farther to the left than the party as a whole, and many people don't see either Democrats or Republicans as completely mirroring their policies or their perspectives. They usually choose one or the other. But when you have like 89% of the Republicans approving Donald Trump, that's kind of scary to me. I don't know that you have 89% of anybody that would agree with a candidate, and particularly somebody as controversial and extreme as Donald Trump.
But even so, that's fascinating. So, is it that, having said that, Diane will win? So basically, you see this as a sort of a fait accompli.
She's going to be elected. She's left of center. I think California's left of center. I don't think it's far left of center, but it's left of center. And the demographics support that. The diversity supports that. So she's acceptable. Even if somebody preferred Kevin De Leon, they're not mad at Diane. Like I said, I think she probably stayed in the election too long. Mm-hmm. I don't think that Kevin has any chance of beating her. And because, first of all, you got at least 25% of the state that's Republican. They definitely vote for Diane over Kevin.
So having said that, and your comments about the party shifting to Oakland, it would seem like, given what happened at the state convention, given what happened with a couple of upsets nationwide, that it would be fair to say that Cat Brooks is in the catbird seat and she's going to beat Libby Schaaf.
Not being Libby Schaaf. I mean, first of all, you got too many marginal candidates, and you're talking about ranked choice voting. The people, A, are not going to know most of these candidates. The candidates are going to be underfunded, underorganized, not have sufficient volunteers to either establish their identity or their message. And you can't win an election in 8 weeks where nobody knows who you are, what you stand for, or what you're going to do if you get elected.
What is it that, I mean, because having said that, I remember when you were mayor, we had, I think, 9 candidates running against you when you ran for re-election, and I thought that was a lot of people. And now we've got 17, even though I should say that with an asterisk, because since I said that, the Office of the City Clerk has released those who released the data on those who submitted statistics, and making a long story short, of the 17, only about 7 survived, or thereabouts.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a big drop-off. Now that's as of last week. There are people who just submitted their documents. I haven't heard about that report, but I can tell you that Cat Brooks is in, Libby is in, of course. We've got Saeed Kamaruz is in, you know, but it's a small number.
What about Ken Houston?
Ken Houston is in. Ken Houston is in as well. Yep, Ken is in. Yeah, but there are others like.
Yeah, what about Pamela Price?
Pamela had not. She was in the count phase, so she was in the count phase, and I'm going off the top of my head because I did write about this for Oakland News on Now, my new blog. But she's in the count phase, as are a number of people, the majority of them. For example, there are a number of the other candidate that I'm thinking of that's in the count phase. I'm just going to go to Oakland News Now and pull it up as I talk to you, because that'll make me not sound like I'm talking out of my you know what. But so try Oakland here. But I was shocked to basically find out that the majority of candidates had not even either not submitted their signatures or were in the count phase. It was a minority that had submitted theirs and had theirs done. When I got the report last Thursday and announced it. So here it is. Yeah, Schaaf and Brooks have qualified. I can read you the list right here. I found the blog post. It's at Oakland News Now, folks, and all you have to do, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm taking this and I'm going to put it in the field here for those who are on the live stream so you can see the link. So there that is right there. Now, going back to the post, I'll read it as soon as I'm scrolling down. Yeah, it says that now the deadline to gather a minimum of 50 signatures is upon us, which is good, and who's not. In other words, which candidate is officially qualified, whose signature document list is still being counted, and who's not turned theirs in. And it says that Oakland mayor election candidates Libby Schaaf, Cedric Troop, Cat Brooks, Ken Houston, and Saeed Kamaruz have all qualified for the November ballot. And this was as of last Thursday. Peter Liu, Marshawn Tatmon, Pamela Price, Nancy Sidebotham, and Jesse Smith were all in the status of verification in process. The rest of the persons originally listed as running for mayor, including Oakland Councilmember Rebecca Kaplan, who said she's not running, have not turned in the signatures at all, according to the spreadsheet. Of 17 candidates, 11 turned in signatures so far, and of the 11, 5 have qualified. So that's where that broke down to. So,
well, I'm not surprised. I mean, first of all, a lot of people, including, I talked to Nancy Sidebotham back in April, and she said she was running. So I don't know why Nancy would not have had all this done well in advance of the election. Some people did make up their minds until relatively late, and probably are wishy-washy about whether or not, A, they should run, or B, they have any chance of winning. And I think unless people are just running for the sake of running, most of these candidates don't have the organization, don't have the money, don't even have the agenda necessary to appeal to what so nobody knows what you stand for. If nobody knows who you are, I mean, we can run, but you can't win.
Do you think that Libby goes into this with maybe an inflated sense of confidence or a false sense of confidence? In other words, inflated means...
I think it's her race to lose. It's not her race to... She should win. Let me tell you, if anybody beats her, everybody knows it would be a huge upset.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it can happen, but the logic is not with the challenger.
So let's go with that. Let's say, okay, let's play the Oakland 2018 version of O.J. Simpson's If I Did It. So,
okay.
From that vein, if Libby lost, why would she lose? What do you think would be the...
One, because somebody has a much better grassroots organization than any of us realize. And they've got 500 volunteers. They got money coming probably mostly from out of town, maybe from a progressive alliance of people who want to make Oakland a perfect city for progressive politics, and think that they can organize millennials and minorities who may have various issues with the city and city administration and want to change. I don't think that there's that many people who are angry. There may be people who are dissatisfied but not angry, and they're not going to just vote for change if they don't know what that change is going to be.
So basically you're saying that Cat Brooks partly fills the bill because Cat told me at the time that she had 400 volunteers. This was 3 weeks ago. Now she's upped the number to 500 volunteers. Now Ken Houston says she's got people from Richmond, Vallejo. I said, Ken, and I said, Ken, they're not Oakland. He goes, it doesn't matter. I said, but Ken, he goes, it doesn't matter. She's got 500. So, and it seems like everywhere I turn, people are talking Cat, but my spider sense tells me that's not going to translate into votes. It's just my sense. I could be wrong.
Look, now here's the problem. Cat is new to electoral politics. A year ago, she was saying that basically institutional politics had no real value or basis or even opportunity to make change. And I think that she now has obviously maybe rethought that. But in the meantime, she's not been out registering people to vote, although she still has maybe 45 days to do that. She hasn't really, really gotten a campaign that's well organized or a method or a way to connect with those voters. If you got 500 volunteers, who's going to organize them? Are they going to be? Are they going to have 300 precinct captains? Are you going to have 300 people that come to a party? I mean, what are these 500 people actually going to do to help elect her? Do they really know her? Can that knowledge translate into persuasion of uncertain voters who don't know her and need to be convinced as to why, A, they should vote for, or B, what she's going to do when elected?
And what about there was this talk of her teaming up with Pamela Price, assuming Pamela Price survives the signature count, because if she doesn't, it doesn't make any difference. But if they do team up, does that make any real advantage or difference in your eyes?
No, they have the same base.
No, because they're the same people, basically. In other words, there's no value added.
They're not the same people, they have the same base. I mean, look, what made a difference in San Francisco was you had Mark Lenham, who had a liberal progressive gay base, gay base, and then you had Jane Kim, who had sort of an Asian progressive base, and they're agreeing to support each other 1 and 2 in a ranked choice voting made some difference. They came in second and third and almost pulled it off.
Yep.
I don't know if any of these 2 or 3 candidates can agree on who ought to be the second if it's not them. If they all say, okay, we're going to run, like Ken Houston's base is basically East Oakland.
Right.
I don't know if he has anything going in North Oakland, West Oakland, or the Hill. Cat Brooks, maybe has a little bit in the flat Man, almost nothing going on in the Hill. Pamela Price, and the Hills still make up at least 40% of the vote.
Right, right. But have the Hills?
So if you don't have a campaign that speaks and gets significant votes in the Hills, unless you run a shutout, you're not going to make it just with the Flatland.
And then meanwhile, Libby has what? Almost $500,000 in her till?
Yeah, she has plenty of money. She'll get, once she's incumbent, people, even if they're unhappy with her, they're not angry enough just to vote for anybody but Libby.
Right.
And that's the problem. If there was anybody but Libby, she could lose. But I think that even if people don't vote for her first, given voting for one of those other candidates, either they'll split the vote. But I guess that's just my analysis. I could be wrong, but I would tell you it would take a real organization, real money, and real volunteers to change that from that analysis in any significant way.
I got to ask you, because I talked to you about this before we started, and I said I saw an article in the East Bay Times that it was a long one, and basically it talked about Oakland changing in a way that we would never know it, which, I mean, but it made me mad because the author wrote about Oakland and basically as a one-sentence throwaway, actually two-sentence throwaway, it seemed, Oakland was going to have fewer black folks. And as if to say, that's okay. In other words, it wasn't presented as an alarm. It wasn't presented as, hey, here's how we could have gotten here without that happening. It was presented as if it's desired. Why?
Well, Oakland hasn't had a daily newspaper. First, Oakland hasn't had a daily newspaper in 20 years.
That's true.
So I don't know why you'd be surprised by what's in the East Bay Times. The people, you got rookie reporters, don't know the city, don't know the people in the city. Their analysis is superficial at best. Now, half the East Bay Times comes out of San Jose.
Yeah. I mean, that I couldn't believe what I was reading, and that's why I thought, I have to add to it. But
if you read an article and you see a Daily Cal, I would assume it's from a journalism student. That's all you got working at the East Bay Times.
Yep, that's it. Which begs the question, though. I mean, well, not the journalism question, but the Oakland question, since that's not going to help us. What the hell is going on with Oakland, and could redevelopment have stopped this problem if Jerry had not killed it?
Well, here's two things. One thing that I did when I was mayor, we did zoning. I came up with the general plan, came up with the strategic plan. Jerry just was pro-development. There was no room for affordable housing, no sense of how you're going to keep the population who is here in town. And as a result, what we've seen is massive gentrification, part of it based on the tech boom, part of it based on the overpriced housing in San Francisco, and Oakland becoming the next best thing. And we benefited from that, but it's led to a level of gentrification that's made Oakland a different city than it was. We can argue to whether it's better or worse, but it's different. Different demographics, different economics, different cultural mix. You got people like Barbecue Becky, and you got people who don't want to hear gospel music and who are alarmed by it. That's not the city that we had 20 years ago.
No.
And people can argue about whether they like it better or worse, but it's different. And that part of the East Bay Times article is absolutely accurate. The demographic mix has changed and will continue to change, not based on anything other than ethnicity and who can afford to live here and who can afford to stay.
I got to ask you, I got to share this with you because I interviewed, have you met Kinsey Smith, who's running for Oakland City Council District 2? He's the barbecue.
I only know a Belgian, and there's another woman of Filipino extraction who's running. I don't think I know the candidate just again.
Yeah, she's Nikki Bass, and then Kinsey is the victim of Barbecue Becky. And
okay.
Yeah, get this, Elihu. I interviewed Kinsey, and Kinsey told me, this is on video on Zenny62 on YouTube and Oakland News Now. He said, and I quote, that the 25 minutes of video on YouTube that you thought was the whole deal, maybe unless you know the whole story, he said that was only part of a 3.5-hour harassment. And he said it started like this. And I wanted to present this to you to get your reaction. He said the first thing out of her mouth to him on that April 29th morning on Lake Merritt was, "I'm having a bad day, and soon you're going to have a bad day too." And then she says, "I purchased the lake for $5.7 million, and it's privately owned." And you're on it. And I said, Elihu, I said to Kinsey, I said, "Kinsey, I'd have called the police on her on general principle." I mean, he goes, no. I mean,
it's sad. People come down the lake every Sunday, often Saturday, for years without major incident. And the last major incident we had was Festival Lake in the 1990s. And nothing has been anywhere near that in terms of disruption, of violence, or any kind of disorder. And for people not to be able to go to enjoy the lake and enjoy one of the most beautiful urban centers anywhere in the country, I think it's a sad reality. I see people of every ethnic persuasion, every gender, political. People run the lake, they walk the lake, they spit at the lake, they play drums on one side, they exercise on the other, they sail on the lake. What's wrong with that picture?
Nothing. It's a beautiful picture. It's the way it should be. It's the way every city should be. It's awesome.
Exactly. And if you want to barbecue at the lake, hey, if there's not an environmental reason to do it, and it could be a spare, bring that issue up and don't call the police. Call the environmental enforcers. Let them come and say, "Hey, this is Spirit of the Earth Day, no outdoor fires, and you can have barbecue, you can eat, but you can't have an open fire." That's a different issue. But that's not what happened.
And you were mayor when we put in the beefed up hate crime law. That was you and Russo, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And now it's to the point where unless they've repaired the situation, and hopefully they have, because I did make noise about it. I and others, but there was a time if you actually called the hotline, you got some sort of burger joint. Now, seriously, but now it seems to me that we have a situation where, what I was going to say basically is this: where do we go from having an Oakland where people seem to want to be in a diverse environment? In fact, I know they said that when I worked for the Montclarian, and I did this survey, to now where it seems like you have a portion of Oakland that detests diversity and they're trying to price people of color out. I mean, or they just hate the music. And you ask them the kind of music that they're complaining about, and it turns out to be, black folks' music. And I'm like, how do we get here?
Oakland, like much of America, is wrestling with what it wants to be. Does it want to be progressive? Does it want to be diverse? Does it want to be inclusive? Those are the kind of issues that Oakland is going to have to really wrestle with, or you're going to lose the soul of Oakland. And Oakland is just going to be a bedroom community. It's no longer going to be the town. It's going to be the Brooklyn East, as they said. It would be a suburb of San Francisco, a cheaper version of San Francisco, but no longer the gritty, blue-collar, honest, grassroots city that feel open to anybody, newcomers included.
Hey, so I got to ask you, Ron Dellums passed away. He was a great man and great mayor of Oakland for the time that he was mayor. He didn't, but what do you feel is Ron's legacy?
Well, first of all, Ron's legacy is basically as a congressman. At 33 years old, he was one of the youngest congressional members in the country. He led the entire anti-war effort. He led the anti-apartheid effort. He was a consistent voice for progressives and for the left. He challenged the status quo. He did it unabashedly. He did it consistently, and he did it with integrity. He came back to Oakland for very honest reasons. He felt in his hometown he had been a representative of the East Bay in Washington, but he felt that he really had a legacy that just like when Willie Brown came back from Sacramento, even though it's a lot closer, he really felt that he owed his hometown, and that's and I don't mean Mineola, but San Francisco, his political and residential base, his political connection, his skill, his expertise as a leader, and that's why he came back to run for mayor. And that's Ron intended not to run. He was at Laney College, prepared to say, "I'm not going to do this because I'm older. My time in elected office is over." And the crowd was so enthusiastic. Run, 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 run. He got caught up in the enthusiasm and acceded to the crowd's demand. I think even after he said it, he knew that in many ways it was a mistake. But he was a public servant. He certainly believed in the public agenda, and he ran anyway. But being mayor is a much different job. Even as I found out coming to run for mayor after having been in the legislature for over a dozen years, it was clear to me that when you want to do retail government, when you want to be involved in under-resourced urban areas with poverty, with educational issues, all those things, you really have to be prepared for a 14 to 16-hour-a-day job, 7 days a week. I don't think Ron was ready for that.
And with that, I think the one gift I think I'll remember him for with respect to being mayor is that he jump-started the effort to really get a baseball stadium built here. I mean, it didn't go, forgetting for the moment how it went, arguably he kicked it off, and I really think that he should be, developed.
And I don't mean this is not to denigrate Ron in any way, but I love Ron Dellis. I love what he represents. I love his commitment to the city. But that was really Robert Baum.
Yeah, that's true. You're right about that. Yeah, you're right, because Robert came before. Yeah, you're right. Robert came 1997, and he was a city manager. And then he became the city administrator when we were transitioning from when you were mayor and I worked with you for you, and then Jerry Brown became his mayor. So you're absolutely right. It was Robert Bob that spearheaded the downtown baseball effort. That didn't happen. And then after, you're right.
And Jerry Brown fired Robert Bob.
Yeah.
Because it was interfering with Uptown.
Yeah.
Robert Bob thought the stadium ought to be where Uptown is, near BART. Close enough to have available parking nearby. And Jerry Brown wanted to give Uptown to Forest City. So when Robert Bob said, this is a better place for a stadium if Oakland's going to retain baseball, Jerry Brown said, you got to go. Only one of us can be the mayor, and ain't you. Bye.
Yep, he did say. Which I got to ask you a question regarding the governor. Okay, Jerry Brown became governor. He got rid of redevelopment. When he was mayor of Oakland, he used redevelopment up the wazoo. And then prior to that, he didn't want a downtown baseball stadium. He just wanted more, market rate housing. My question is this: why shouldn't we blame Oakland today and this Negro removal, as I call it, because that's what it looks like to me, on the governor? Why shouldn't this be put in his lap?
I think you can blame him for it. The question is, was it a conscious effort to remove, or was it just a byproduct of his ambition to develop market rate housing? Look, Uptown was subsidized by $70 million of redevelopment money. That ain't market rate housing. That's subsidized housing for the rich.
Right. Great point. Great point. And then we got rid of it, though, after it became, cool for investors to put their money in Oakland because Oakland was perceived as whiter than it used to. Remember, people started calling Oakland Brooklyn like it was, a borough of New York. Brooklyn by the Bay.
Brooklyn by the Bay.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, I remember I told Jim Copes. You remember Jim? Jim is, he's got the T-shirt guy. Yeah, Jim. I said, Jim, I love this shirt, but Oakland is Oakland. Oakland is not a borough of San Francisco. And to me, I said, if we do that, the next thing, people are going to stop talking about our history, like the Black Filmmakers Hall of Fame. And remember when my stepbrother-in-law and your godbrother, Ralph Grant, passed away, but before he did, remember that party they had for him, that big party with the dinner and everything? You had every person, every Black business person in Oakland was there. I mean, if you wanted to meet anybody, that was the place to be. And that Oakland, to me, is all but, is it gone? Or is it, you know, where are we? I'm still trying to figure out where we're at. I'm lost. I'm like, what happened?
We are a little different version of Oakland. I always saw Oakland as diverse and inclusive. I saw areas of Oakland that did not conflict with each other. Chinatown was distinct. The Fruitvale was distinct. East Oakland was distinct. West Oakland was distinct. North Oakland, Rockridge was distinct. Gateview, Golden Gate was distinct. Temescal, it was a city of neighborhoods. Some of them defined ethnically, some of them defined economically, some of them defined culturally, some of them defined because they had neighborhood shopping, some because they had antiques, but they were all combined to make Oakland a city of neighborhoods where people were not uncomfortable or necessarily fearful living in those various neighborhoods. That's what I hate to lose. I don't want Oakland to lose the Laurel and the Glenview or Montclair. I want all of those to be part of Oakland and feel comfortable. You can live in the hills or flatland. You can live in Chinatown or you can live in Fruitvale and feel like, hey, this is my neighborhood. Maybe it might be predominantly this or predominantly that, but I can live here. I'm not threatened. I live here. I want to live here. I'm not forced to live here. I choose to live in the area between 14th Avenue and 29th Avenue. You know, I like this. I'm comfortable here. I know my stores. I know my neighbors. You know, that's what we're losing. Now we got a city where people don't know their next door neighbor.
Right.
Where people are uncomfortable because they're a different ethnicity or different cultural mix, or they're an immigrant, don't speak the same language. That's what I don't want to lose in Oakland.
Yeah, there was this very recent case of Leslie Franklin, who was a CEO, I believe, East Bay Mental Health, and whatever was going on with her own mental health, she saw a group of Spanish-speaking folks led by a gentleman by the name of Jordan Cordova, just getting out of their SUV, happened to be parked in front of her house, and she comes out and says, "Hey, this is on video. Move the car," and then she says, "Well, where are you from?" And Jordan makes a video of it, goes viral, and I just had someone post on Oakland News Now under my blog account about it. They said that they were a patient of Leslie's, and that Leslie was completely opposite of what they saw in the video, and she had to have some mental health issues. I mean, is it legalization of marijuana? Is that making us crazy? I mean, something's going on?
No, it's not. What you're losing is the people who love Oakland, the people who just live here.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between people who love it and people who just tolerate it because it's cheaper than San Francisco and they can't afford to live in the city. You know, you got to have a city where people can go to the Warrior game and see that diversity. That's going to change for people to San Francisco. Chase is not Oracle. Oracle is a place where you see black and brown and yellow and white cheering, loving their team, not hating or fearing each other.
Right.
That's the Oakland that I love. I don't want to lose that. It will be a loss not only to the Bay Area, but to California and this country. When you can't have a city where people can come together, whether it's not a sports team or just the fact they love Oakland. They love the symbol of Oakland. They love what it stands for. Raider Nation across the country, black, white, Asian, love the Raiders.
Yep.
They're talking about, there's no Raider Nation in Las Vegas. You know, there may be the Raiders in Las Vegas, and there may be a Raider Nation, but they're not going to be one and the same.
No. Hey, speaking of which, I'm going to assume you don't know this because this is breaking news. The Raiders have said, and I have known people here and there, they've come in to hear about this. The Raiders have said that if we, the city of Oakland, sue them regarding the Vegas relocation, they will not play in Oakland next year or the year after that. They'll play in they'll play in San Jose State. They said San Jose State.
Who cares? They've already left the city. You can see in that last exhibition game, nobody cares anymore. Take Mark Davis, get his random whatever. his daddy did it, but his daddy at least had some basis for his move.
Yep.
Mark is moving because the poor white boy he can't raise enough money to own an NFL team.
Woo. So hey, so I gotta ask you.
He
ahead.
should not have some people right in. What?
Yo, go ahead. You go ahead. I didn't do anything. Go ahead.
But NFL teams are now owned by billionaires who can afford to build their own stadium, primarily with their own money. And he doesn't have that money. He should have sold the team to somebody who's committed to staying in Oakland, building a stadium, and building a franchise that can win a Super Bowl. He can't do it. He doesn't have the money to play. He's paying with the last public money in America available to build a stadium. So if that's what he wants, that's what he got. I'm going to see whether or not he can maintain a fan base when he starts losing.
Yeah, and not only that, an investment banker, a friend of mine that I'm not going to say this person's name or his firm, told me by text today, after I shared the numbers with him, that the Clark County government would have to dip into its own general fund to pay for the bonds that the stadium tax revenue would not cover, which is what I've been saying, but I finally got somebody in the investment banking community to admit that I was right. Yes, sir.
You were right. The only people who thought you were wrong were people who didn't want to know the truth.
Sad stuff. Hey, here's the thing. Talking about Oakland and the Raiders, but also talking about Oakland's future, you're heading up, I believe it's on August 27th, a debate forum, right? 23rd. Where's it going to be at? Because I've got some questions for you about that.
It's going to be at 1515 Clay, the State Building, in the auditorium. You have all the candidates for city council and the candidates for mayor. There'll be a chance to ask them questions, to hear their answers, to hear their presentations, and to see them confront each other about their policies and their programs. We're going to try to keep it lively, and we're going to try to keep it moving.
Hey, so folks that are on the live stream now, you're actually ramping up. If you have a question for the mayor, just type it in the comments section. You know how to do that, and then I'll ask it when it pops up. Elihu, I got to ask you, first of all, let's talk about the Oakland City Council races, starting with what I think is the most contentious one, and that's involving Destiny Brooks. What do you think about the District 6 race?
There are a lot of things that I say about it. One, I don't really know people running against her. They may be great people. What I don't like about them is they're being used by the mayor to get at an opponent, which is her political right. But I don't think that's necessarily the right motivation. Destiny Brooks has done a reasonably good job in her district in trying to be inclusive and in trying to serve her constituents. The fact that she has a combative personality is second. Maxine Waters has a combative personality. Doesn't mean she's not an effective member of Congress. I don't have to deal with Desi's personality. And I understand that there are members of the council who may not want Desi reelected. But right now, I think you need them fly in the ointment. I think you need some oil in the water. I think you got too much collegiality and not enough effectiveness, advocacy, or accomplishments. That's the city council does not challenge the bureaucracy, doesn't challenge the mayor, and everybody gets better when there are constructive, collaborative challenges.
I can't remember when I worked for you and we went to council. Well, I remember council arguing all the time, but I don't remember this level of vitriol, or am I being too nostalgic?
Well, there's a level of vitriol, but the question I have less about the vitriol than about what is it accomplishing. If the vitriol is simply about talking loud and saying nothing, that's purposeless. If it's about arguing toward the right conclusion, toward challenging each other to do stronger, to do better, I don't have an issue with the vitriol. I don't like just yelling for the sake of yelling. I don't argue for the sake of arguing. I don't want to disagree to be disagreeable. I want to reach consensus by collaboration, and if you got to argue to get there, not a bad thing.
And under this, though, you think it would be better if the mayor were at the council? Because we've had now, 3 mayors. Well, actually, Jean sat at the council. So Jean Kwan's credit, she sat there.
She sat, but she was sort of she was there more as an observer.
Yeah. I mean,
she didn't really answer to the public. She didn't really say anything in the debate. She was simply there. And the presence was fine, but it wasn't necessarily dispositive of the result. I don't know that any mayor under the straw mayor has been as effective as one would hope. Outside or inside of the council, 4-4 split, where on rare occasions she's the tiebreaker. If she can pick up one more vote or lose a vote, the council, I think if she loses the vote, I think the council needs to be a separate branch of government. It doesn't need to be the fifth, the mayor's council. It needs to be the city's council. It needs to serve the residents of the districts and the city at large. And that means challenge the mayor on occasion. I don't think there's a problem. I didn't mind being challenged. I had to work with Ignacio. I had to work with Nick Miley. I had to work with John Russo and with Dick Speeds and with Chip Jordan and you know, all those things I felt made me better, even though I didn't like half the time not getting what I wanted from them. But I also understood that I needed to try to get 5 votes together. And that made me have to talk to people, have to try to work out compromise. And that's something that I think is not necessarily a bad thing. It is when you don't get anything done. But if you can get people to compromise, to be conciliatory toward one each other, and understand that everybody got a vote, everybody had to be respected, that's not bad.
How do you think Libby will be regarded in the history of mayors of Oakland, from your perspective? Now that we are, you know,
I think Libby is a very nice person. I don't think Libby has done as good a job as she could have been to be collaborative and inclusive. But that's indicative of the new Oakland, and she may represent that. Libby grew up in Oakland. She went to Skyline. She's obviously well-educated, locally educated at the University of California. And I think Libby is a very nice person. I have no issue with Libby on a personal basis. I like Libby. But I think her motivation is basically sincere. But I think that sometimes you have to be willing to confront more openly. Sometimes you got to be more collaborative openly. Sometimes I think you got to be the person that leads openly. And I think that she hasn't done those things enough, in my opinion. She can argue and defend that, and she will on August the 23rd. But I want to say, look, you know, what other than watching the renaissance of Oakland, the new Oakland come from the ashes of its past, or the foundation of its past. What is it doing, and what is the Oakland you envision? And what is your role in both shaping and or saving Oakland?
That's a deep question. I'd love to be there to get that answer. Hey, shifting to District 2, how would you evaluate Abel Guillen's performance to this point?
Well, I like Abel. I worked with him when I was at Peralta. I think Abel is a guy who's out and about. He's in the community. I see him at events. He's not a guy who's hiding in the shadows. I think that Abel, my issue with Abel, and I told him this, is I don't think he challenges the bureaucracy enough. I don't think he challenges the mayor enough. I think that he needs to be much more about accountability from everybody in the city administration. They get poor staff, they get poor reports, they have a very languishing city administration. It takes months, if not years, to get things done. I don't think it's acceptable in a city with so many problems, homelessness, the problem with policing, there's no real community policing. Jerry Brown abandoned it, and nobody's fully put it back into the streets of the city. I don't think he's done enough, nor has the city done enough on things like illegal dumping. There are a lot of issues that bureaucracy needs to be challenged about. How are we going to get this done? How are we going to get this cleaned up? How are we going to get this resolved? And they sort of sit and wait for the staff to tell them how they're going to do it, rather than demand that the staff do it. They'll be calling people out at every meeting. What happened with this? Last week we asked you about this. Has that been accomplished? Has that been changed? In my district, these streets haven't been paved. When are they going to get paved?
What are they afraid of? Are they afraid of being accused of tampering or something?
I think because, first of all, that means you got to go out and see the problem, then you got to come back and see whether or not they solved the problem.
So are you accusing them of not being interested enough to see what's going on?
I'm saying that I believe they're not doing as good a job in accountability as I would hope.
Wow, no, there's a lot to be said for that as being the absolute case. I mean, it really is. Hey, let's turn to District 4 race, because District 4, we got Annie Campbell Washington, who's resigned.
Right.
But still in.
She hasn't resigned. She's still on the council.
Yeah, she's still on the council. She says she's not going to run for re-election. Let's put it that way.
But that's different than resign. Resign means she's not there. She's
right.
There.
Right. Resign is you're supposed to. Right. I think what happened was
she's not running for election. That's all she's doing.
I think I have Gene Hazard's voice in my head where he was pointing at Annie and saying, "You're not supposed to be in that chair."
No. Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, that was funny. But I digress. But my point is that Annie is chosen not to run for re-election. We have 10 challengers. 10. Mm-hmm. Are they all going to show up at your forum?
I don't know. That's not my choice. But let me say this. Mm-hmm. There's a young man who, for personal and family reasons, chose not to run, but he was really an outstanding candidate. There are others who are running, I think, with good reasons and good motivation. There's nobody, in my opinion, that is so far out in front, either by way of organization or money or platform, that you can say, wow, here's the answer to our prayers. I hope that will clarify itself and we really end up with an outstanding member. I mean, Dick Lees was a Republican, but he reflected that district. Mm-hmm. He and his assistant actually really worked hard to deal with constituent problems, to go places, to do things, and to respond. I can't say one way or the other about Ann, but I do hope that whoever replaces her does even better.
Do you have we were talking about the person that chose not to run. Are you thinking about Chris Young, who's dropped out? Who's with him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chris
I think he would have been the best candidate of the 10. And I've even heard that from other candidates. So it's not just a one-sided. And I don't really know Chris Young. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying what people said of him and what they described about him as a human being and as someone who really offered himself as a candidate to serve.
Yeah, Chris said he decided not to run because he and his wife are expecting a second child. Yeah.
I heard that's what I heard from them.
Yeah, and I go with that. I mean, there are other people. There's one person who's an elected, who's currently active, who has a tendency to spread a lot of stuff. I'm not going to spread that stuff on that person's behalf. That's all I'll say about that. Moving forward, I think you know what I'm talking about, Elihu. Moving forward, how would you characterize? Okay. Is strong mayor working, Elihu? And here's why I asked the question, because under strong mayor, we've had a city administrator, according to my calculations, just over every 2 years. And it seems to have brought in nothing but instability. Or, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Or do you think I'm wrong?
No, you're right. I mean, first of all, I wanted a strong mayor. Lionel Wilson wanted a strong mayor because we wanted to get accountability. And if you're the mayor, people have an expectation of accountability of the person they elect to be the mayor of the city. But when you don't give that person the power, it's very difficult, in my opinion, to honestly hold them accountable. They don't have 5 votes on the city council because they get elected separately. They don't get elected as a 5-member team. There's individual members of the council, 1 at-large member, and 1 mayor at large. And they've got to find a way to get together, and that's fine. But somebody's got to be the person that drives the bureaucracy, that's going to be held accountable for the work of the administration. If there are problems in the city, at the end of 4 years, what did you do to solve those problems? How did you use the tools of the city administration to solve public works issues or parks and recreation issues or illegal dumping or any of those community policing? Did our crime statistics go down? If they didn't, why not? As mayor, you're expected to answer those questions, whether or not you have the resources or not, whether or not you have the control or not. You know, that to me is unrealistic. People are still going to hold the mayor accountable, and but Libby has that ability. She can pick a city administrator. If the city administrator is not doing a good job, I don't know who she blames. If the city administrator is doing a great job, then she can take the credit for that.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of which, I realized. Go ahead. You were going to say. I realized I got through a conversation with you without mentioning the police, which is something I should be punished for. So I'll shift gears and talk about the Oakland Police Commission. And first of all, before I even talk about the Police Commission itself, when do you think we're ever going to get out of the situation where we're not in court control? Or when are we going to not be under control of a court? When do you think we're going to get out of this thing?
When the people of the city vote, and it's not going to happen by the city council, when the people of the city vote on real police accountability. Look, we can't even get in the state legislature legislation through that says that police should only use reasonable force. Mm-hmm. They're still able to use what they deem to be necessary force. Mm-hmm. If that includes shooting an unarmed person, if they had reason to believe, it had to be reasonable. I thought he had a gun. Boom, I shot him. Mm-hmm. But I thought he had a gun. Justifiable? Not in my mind, but under state law, it's like the we have our own version of stand your ground in California, which is the police had reason to believe. And that is not the same as necessary and reasonable.
Is that what got us Oscar Grant? The Oscar Grant murder?
I think that is all of this. But that person at least got convicted of something. I'm talking about police officers shoot people running down the street, don't even know if they committed a crime. They didn't know they're running. And they're scared, and they shoot. I thought he might have a gun. He turned suddenly when I told him to stop. He should have turned more slowly, and he should have had his hands out to the side, and he should have had palm. People aren't thinking that way when the police are after them. We have police get the benefit of the doubt. What about the people they shoot?
I thought that we had a home rule city in Oakland in California. Home rule meaning that we established the laws and
No. We're not a general law city. We're a charter city. But the state still, like the federal government, can preempt areas of law, like post, police officer standing. All these things preempt city ordinances and laws.
Which basically,
the state is taking them of policing. The state constitution says you can't have residency laws. There are many things that are not left to the city's general or charter.
So basically, we would need a charter convention or an initiative to change that, right?
Well, yeah, you have that, or you can simply give the police commission, even with the police commission, mm-hmm. you still are going to have to hold the police to the standard of state law.
We can't do anything about that. So what you're saying basically is, as long as that's
we can do better, but there is that limitation. And a policeman is fired, and he said, I was fired improperly. Yeah, I shot him, but under the state law, I had the right to use necessary force, mm-hmm. and not necessarily reasonable force. And we have a black assembly member, former law enforcement guy, who's defending that. He will not vote to change the law to reasonable force. I mean, I don't understand anything.
Why? What's up with that?
Police ought to act reasonably.
Wait, give us the name. Give us the name of this assembly member.
Assemblyman Cooper.
Okay.
Not Cooper. I believe it's Cooper out of Elk Grove.
Okay.
But my point, though, is I don't want anybody with a gun who's going to act unreasonably or irrationally. And if that's the standard for police, what's the standard to stop them?
So basically, we have a police commission that is basically going up against the state, in a sense, right?
After we have police commission, people really want their honest bet. I'm just saying there are limitations as to how far they can go and what they can do. They're not only bound by state law, but as you know, by precedent, past beneficial practices, bargaining between the police and the city. I mean, this is not a situation where people can look at a situation and make a reasonable decision based on the facts. His life was in danger because the person was running fast, and he thought the person might have a gun because he couldn't see what was in his hand. What? It was an ordinance they violated, not even a misdemeanor. You know, what are we talking about here? You know, a punishable, not even punishable by imprisonment, but by fines for somebody losing their life. I mean, what kind of logic is that? We've gone beyond logic, where we can say, well, police officers got a tough job, and whatever they do, we got to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I was mayor, I didn't get the benefit of the doubt. Damn, if anybody else got
you sure didn't. Man, oh man, you sure didn't. Hey, and I got to ask you on that note, how is the police commission? Excuse me. How's Police Chief Ann Kirkpatrick doing, in your opinion?
I think she's doing reasonably well. I don't know what her understanding is with the mayor. I don't know what her power is relative to cleaning up. I know that she came in with a sense of reform, and I've not been able to get kind of an objective evaluation of that performance. But I know she came in with that apparent mandate, and I think that people ought to look at what she's done in the time she's been here, given that mandate.
All right, I'm going to shift gears back to the Raiders and ask, well, first of all, we're in arbitration with the Warriors. We've been in arbitration with Warriors now, I think, for 3 weeks. And what's your take on the idea that the Warriors claim that they don't owe us any more money. They don't owe us $60 million. I know you and I have talked about this before, but you know, memories are short, so it's a good idea to have this on record more than once. What's your take on what the Warriors owe us?
It's clear to me, in plain English, that Chris Cohan assumed responsibility for the Oracle Arena when he undertook bonds to rebuild it. If the Warriors have escaped that, then there's either very tricky languaging when the bonds were initially passed to refurbish. When people talk about Oracle as the oldest arena in the league, that's the question. It was totally refurbished.
For that, isn't that right?
Yes.
And so basically, tell my viewers, because Elihu, we have a lot of people who don't know Oakland history. How did it start that we got to a place where we renovated the arena for the Warriors?
Well, Chris Cohan said he needed the arena. Remember, the Coliseum had been there for 30 years, 1960 whatever to 1995, almost 30 years. I had 66 to 96. Chris said, look, you know, we're going to have to get a more modern arena. The fans deserve it. NBA is demanding it. We can go down to SAP in San Jose, which they did during the time of construction. We can't go back to San Francisco at the time because the Cow Palace was the only alternative in San Francisco, or the Bill Graham Auditorium. And so we made the determination that we could work out a deal with the Warriors, which we did, that we could, in fact, build a 20,000-seat arena that would be much cheaper than starting from scratch, that would be modern in every way. We put in the club, the suites, the electronics to make it an arena that can be used for multiple purposes, but particularly basketball, hockey if necessary, or opportunity presented itself. And everybody seemed to be happy. That was in 1999, 2000. Here we are in 2019, 2018, and the Warriors, under new ownership, want to be in what they believe to be a glitzier environment, i.e. San Francisco. On some level, that's their choice. I think it's an abandonment of the fans who stood by them during the times where they didn't have Steph Curry or Klay Thompson or Kevin Durant. And I'm going to see whether or not these same fans that they're moving to at Chase are going to stand by them when certain times. And year after this.
Hey, I want to get your view because I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, the people paid $5,000 for 2 tickets in the lower basin at Chase. You think that they're going to want to come and spend that kind of money for a team that doesn't have those players? Doesn't spend that kind of money? Not a team that doesn't have those players.
Sorry, it's a little feedback there. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
But I'm just saying, I don't think the fan base at Chase, they're more, bandwagon fans than those fans at Oracle who came when they were losing, when they loved the Ivy League team, when they loved the team because they loved the players, whether they were winning, whether they were going to the playoffs or not. That place was full.
Yep.
I don't think those fans are going to be there, in my mind, at those prices at Chase. And I think the Warriors, as an organization, I think are miscalculating how much people are willing to pay for basketball unless the team is a dynasty team, which I don't believe it'll be after this year or next year.
Hey, how can we get to a situation where, let me just, before I go there, let me get this. The county of Alameda seems like they want to be out of the sports business. And they don't, and my impression is basically that they want the city to buy them out, but they don't do anything to help get events in or put money into the facility. I went to, and as I say this to you, in my mind's eye, and folks, you can actually see what I'm talking about if you go back and watch the JPA meeting live stream. The arena on that Friday is empty, and it was empty the entire day. It's like, Elihu, it's like they run it like a giant gymnasium that's barely used, and this is a multi-billion-dollar. These facilities are multi-billion dollars. What are we doing wrong? I mean, it's like they don't care. What
Let me say a couple things. Number one, the city of Oakland can afford to run that complex by itself. You can't have a city of under 500,000 in a market of 2.5 million people justify that kind of expenditure on any public arena. You're going to find that arena of this size, of this complexity, certainly both an arena and a sports outdoor sports facility without the metropolitan area. And that should be both Alameda and Contra Costa County, by the way, kicking in to support that. We should have pride as an area. The East Bay, Oakland, Alameda, even Solano County is a region, and we have to come together, and we're going to be able to have professional sports and major attractions in our city. And Alameda County can be derelict, or it can deny responsibility. Let's be clear. Sports does not get you elected. It gets headlined. But nobody gets elected from the sports page. So if you want to abandon the Coliseum, the A's, the Raiders, the Warriors, you're not losing an election for that. And that's part of the problem. You do it because of civic pride. You do it because we are a city, we are a region, and those are some of the ways that define us. But that's leadership. That's not just convenience. It's not political expediency. It's saying, hey, we got to do some things to hold us together, give us some common identity.
Right.
That's what sports do.
Makes the city livable. Makes it fun to be
in. Part of it. Look, I'm down here in Palm Springs. I'm trying to follow the A's, against Seattle. I can't get it on TV down here. Last time I looked, it was 1-1 in the third inning. But I follow it wherever I am. That's part of what my identity is with my hometown.
Hey, Elihu, you come to the right place for updates. Rob Iman, who's one of my fans, informs us the A's are leading 3-2, top of the 8th.
Top of the 8th?
Yeah, top of the 8th. 3-2, top of the 8th.
Wow. Wow.
Did I get that right, Rob? Yeah. So,
no, not the top of the 8th. It can't be the top of the 8th. It's not even 9 o'clock.
I'm just reading what he typed in the comments. because I don't have the I don't have the window open because it takes too much RAM. Hey, how much time do I have with you, by the way? Oh, okay.
My wife is cooking dinner, and she's telling me that I must be in love with you because I'm talking to you rather than spending time with her.
Uh-oh. That's a sign. I got one more question, I'll let you go. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. The one more question is this. What is it that you would like Oaklanders to do in this election? What kind of message do you have for people in Oakland as they approach this election?
Several things. One, to think about the future of the city. Two, to look for candidates who will actually provide leadership, not just convenience or expediency, who are willing to take political risks to do what's right. And people who have a vision for a collaborative future, and they want to keep the best of Oakland while improving it. If candidates can't do that, convince you as to why they're running and what they're going to do if they're going to get elected, that's not the candidate you should be voting for.
Well, so, one more thing. Hey, you know Vivian Kahn, right?
Yeah.
Vivian is giving Dave Cavall fits. She hates Howard Terminal. How would you give the A's an E&A for both Howard Terminal and the Coliseum if you were mayor?
I really think in the final analysis, there's only one place to work is the Coliseum. I mean, there are problems with all the others. No BART access, railroad tracks built up around it. There's only one logical place. I think they need to go back, make the Coliseum work, build a stadium, build a Coliseum city that will have maybe convention and other, keep that arena and improve it so that you continue to have a place for 20,000 people to gather for concerts, maybe a WNBA team or something else that plays in an arena, maybe arena football. I don't know. My point is get creative, try to maintain public facilities where people can come together under a common roof or a common venue and enjoy their city, enjoy their region. I don't want to compete with San Francisco, but I ain't crossing that bridge every day to have fun.
I heard that. Elihu, I'll let you get back to your wife.
All right, man. I tell her you relinquish control.
Just tell her to get me married. Find a.
All right, hey, man. Hey, look here, man. It's probably easier said than you think. Don't make it offer. Hey, don't make it offer that you can't refuse.
I'll keep that in mind. Hey, thank you very much. Man. I appreciate the time.
Always enjoy it, Denny. Hey, man, keep providing that information. That's part of what keeps us together as a community. Whether we agree or disagree, common information, common debate.
Hey, I appreciate that. And by the way, this is going to be on, to let your wife know this too, after I'm done here, which will be after you go, this will be on Oakland News Now, but it'll also be on Google News. News. It'll be part of the news cycle, and people will be talking about you tomorrow. I guarantee it.
Hey, let me tell you something. People talk about you all the time.
Oh no! All right, I'll see you, man.
All right.
Okay, thanks. Oh, folks, that was former my boss. I always call him boss, and former Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris. Always gives a great show. As John Mark says, God bless Mr. Elihu Harris and Rob Iman as well. And yeah, I had a lot of fun working for Elihu. The story of how I come to work for him was I was a columnist for Montclair, and my background is not in journalism. But what happened was that I was originally asked to be on the Alameda Base for Use Committee by then and now Alameda County Supervisor Keith Carson, who represents his district extremely well. And what happened at that time, this was to put the proper years on it, it's the early 90s. In 1991 and through 92. And what happened was the Base Closure and Realignment Commission was formed and it gave a list of areas to close their bases. And the Bay Area was one of them. And at the time, because we had a parade of Republican presidents, okay? It was thought that we were being punished for being too liberal because they were taking away our not once great, but great series of military bases. We had Alameda Naval Air Station. So if you remember Pearl Harbor, the planes that went to battle the Japanese came over from Alameda Naval Air Station, and then I believe then we had something to do with the whole dropping of the bomb, and then we had Mare Island Naval Air Station, where many of the large ships that weren't at the Naval Air Station were in Alameda, were at Mare Island, and I was a ship checker for M. Rosenblatt and Son, Naval Architects and Marine Engineers when I was in high school. You say, what's a ship checker do? And I know I'm getting off the track a little bit, but this comes back to how I started working for Elihu. But a ship checker basically takes the plans of the ship, and you take those plans and you look at the ship and you see what has changed, what pipes have changed, and you basically make those adjustments on the plan so that the plan that you have for the ship, for piping and everything, matches what's actually there. That's called ship checking. So that's what I did. It was a lot of fun. And so fast forward to the early 90s, Carson asked me to sit on this. And I felt that there was some shenanigans going on. I wanted to write about them. So Marley Egri, who was Keith's chief of staff, she and I had lunch one day, and I was complaining about what I thought certain firms were doing that was unethical. And she said, write about it. And she said, write a query letter. I said, how do I get to a point where I'm writing for the Tribune, right? And she said, write a query letter and a cover letter. But then she said, don't stop at the Tribune, do it for the Mont-Clarion. Make a long story short, the Tribune under Pearl Stewart, who was the editor, said no. And the Mont-Clarion under Chris Treadway, who was the editor, said yes. And so Chris Treadway, from 1993 to 96, provided me, a guy steeped in city and regional planning and urban economic development and numbers, a crucible within which to learn how to be a journalist, a columnist. And I wrote a column that by 94, depending on, well, a number of people said this, was as popular as Peggy Stinnett, because it was also a big deal that a black guy was writing for an Oakland Hills newspaper, because the Hills were considered to be white, okay? Me, I was, Skyline grad, class of 80, knew everybody in the Hills, so I thought. So it was like, no big deal, right? So anyway, wrote for the Mont-Clarion, and I wrote something that was critical of Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris. He was the mayor. Critical in a good way, So he, make a long story short, saw me at a fundraiser for Wellington Webb, who was then the mayor of Denver. This was at the Pritkin Mansion in San Francisco, owned by Bob Pritkin, who was an ad guy. And Bob Pritkin, kind of this eccentric dude, interesting. But he had this antebellum style Southern mansion plopped right smack in the middle of the Mission District of San Francisco. You heard me correctly. I'll repeat that. Bob Pritkin had a Southern Bellum style mansion plopped right in the center of San Francisco's Mission District, in a place where we had to drive down Cesar Chavez to get to it. And you drove in to the left off, I think it was, I want to say 44th, somewhere in the high numbers. And I remember what it looked like, okay? Common archway that exists, that's a parking area for all the common apartment complex you'd see in that area of San Francisco. Go through the building, come out, and there's these weeping willows, and the weeping willows opened up into this gigantic field. It was like you had walked into someone's virtual reality hologram. I'm serious. You were driving through it, okay? I mean, it looks like you drove from the Bay Area to the south in like less than a second. That's what it looked like. It was wild. Go to this mansion, Elihu's there. Elihu starts yelling at me. Why'd you write that column? Why'd you write that column? Well, I thought he was going to hit me. I wrote a column saying that he favored a developer, Baines and Robertson, Michael Baines. A friend of mine to this day. I haven't talked to Michael in a while. And I said, you know, I thought he was going to hit me. He didn't. Then his chief of staff at the time, Larry Reed, said two prominent African-American men, and I'm thinking, prominent? Me? Really? Shouldn't be arguing with each other. So to make a long story short, Elihu was talking to me. He says, well, as a journalist, you know, I said, Elihu, my background's in urban planning. So I said, Elihu, I was an intern for the Redevelopment Agency. He didn't know all that. So at the end of our meeting, I said, hey, I'd love to work on your behalf, you know, because he obviously had a need for someone in economic development. That was May of '94. So then came December 17th, 1995. They made an offer for me to work as Oakland's economic advisor. That's how I wound up working for Elihu Harris. So Elihu brought me in, and he said, you have responsibility for everything from redevelopment to the Raiders. And that's what I did. I monitored the things on behalf of the mayor. I got to know Andy Dolich. Andy tried to pull a fast one on me. I thought we had an agreement worked out regarding utility splits between the Oakland Athletics. Andy Dolich was the A's general manager at the time. And I thought we had an agreement worked out regarding utility splits, and it was based on what Elihu wanted. So then Andy tried to go behind my back and say that what I agreed to with him wasn't in the A's best interest, and he wanted Elihu to come up with something different, not realizing that I speak on behalf of the mayor. So knowing that Andy was trying to pull a fast one, I love Andy to this day, but that's what happened, okay? Knowing that Andy was trying to pull a fast one on me, Elihu called me in to the meeting. Andy Dolich didn't know I was going to be in the meeting. So Elihu brings me in, has me sit down at the chair. I believe that, I don't know if Libby still has that chair or not. But I sit in Elihu's seat. And Elihu stands behind me and says exactly word for word what I told Andy. And Andy turned not one, not two, not three, but 4 shades of red. I kid you not. Gotcha. So, you know, I have a lot of stories from that, but it was a lot of fun. What I learned was from Elihu. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I have learned the art of cultivating power. Okay? And what I learned, and that might sound ridiculous if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, but if you are at all interested in politics or policy formation, the first thing you've got to realize is that no one really cares what you know. What everybody cares about in politics is who in power you surround yourself with. In Elihu's case, Elihu taught me how to sit next to him, and he said, Zinni, all you have to know is that as long as you have my ear and it's visible to others, you have power. That's all you have to know. And he said to me then also that it doesn't matter about you. He said the time to worry is when they stop talking about you. And something else too. He said, Zenny, there are 1,000 games that are played in Oakland City Hall every day. The question for you is which one you choose to play. It's all a game. And meaning that you don't take it seriously. And I say that to anyone running for office now, particularly in Oakland, you have to understand that it's a game. The problem with Oakland right now is you have a number of people who are in those chairs who didn't know that. They don't understand. They didn't understand that it's a game. They took things too personally. And one of them is, I mean, this is Annie. Annie's getting out because she didn't understand that aspect of power and doesn't. Just have to say that candidly and sadly, because I think, you know, there's a lot of gifts she gives to the city, but her lack of understanding of how to cultivate power has really hurt her. Just has. And I'm talking about Annie Campbell Washington, the current District 4 council member. Brilliant policy person, nice person, but the issue of how to cultivate power escapes her, okay? Because had she understood that, there are a number of things this year she would not have done. Separate from whether or not she wanted to stay in office, okay? But had she done them, I think she would have enjoyed, in fact, I know she would have enjoyed the process and she would have remained as council member. But a lot of people don't understand and they don't learn what I learned from Elihu. It's how to cultivate power and how to understand, again, that people don't care what you know. We have, and Libby has a lot of policy wonks. They analyze something to death, but they don't understand how to go from analysis to implementation. Who do you go to in the city to get something done? What kind of plan do you draw out and how do you implement the plan? I've watched people give presentations who work directly or indirectly for the mayor, and it's analysis, but it's meaningless. Okay, you've analyzed this, but why are you telling me, why are you giving me analysis that's supposed to be an economic, and, you know, someone in the Economic Development Office, I'm not going to use their name because they'll think I'm trying to beat them up. I'm not. But someone in the Economic Development Office gave a presentation like that on May 8th this year. And my question was, hey, look, why are you telling us about how the city has responded to service needs when it's supposed to be an economic development presentation and not a city services presentation? Okay? That's how far off the rails things have gotten, all right? So, so my point is that, if you're running for office, this applies anywhere, not just here, it applies in Las Vegas, it applies in San Francisco, it applies here in Atlanta, it applies in Fayetteville. Power, how to cultivate power, who you know in politics is more important than anything else. And by that, and adjunctly related to that is this: relationships are your best currency. Maintain your relationships. There's some of you out there, younger, who don't understand the importance of being nice to people and having face-to-face contact. A lot of you are texting and everything else, but even then, you're not reaching out, some of you, and establishing relationships with people just to keep in touch, send a card, even just say happy birthday to them on Facebook, right? Little things like that to let people know that you're still thinking about them. A lot of people don't do that today, and so what happens is that the conic of leaders gets smaller, okay? So learn how to cultivate power. The only way you can learn how to cultivate power is to understand how to appreciate relationships you have with people. To the extent you can do that, you will be very successful in politics. And I think in life, and even when you don't think you have a lot of money, a lot of people don't think it. If you have relationships, if you know people, and yeah, the right people, and you're going to say, well, it sounds like you're using people. No, it's not using people. It's having an appreciation for what people do in life. Because look, the flip side of it is this. If you have a person who is an owner of a business, a council member, a rapper, a comedian, a cook, okay, all the people that I mentioned, a bartender, a waiter, a waitress, they all want to be acknowledged for a job well done. Okay? So the person that is the caterer may very well be your caterer for your pitch meeting for your new business. That person's service could make or break your ability to raise money, maybe millions of dollars for your business. You see what I'm getting at? All this is vitally important. Relationships are vitally important to your success. It's not this. It's not what you know. It's how you are. It's how you treat people and how people treat you. And God forbid, if you have an issue with somebody, you think somebody's done something wrong, talk to them. Don't be nice to them and then behind their back say something bad about them. Because you will wreck that relationship, or worse, they will do the same thing to you. Be enough of an adult to have a sit down with them and talk with them. At least try. Doesn't work, try again, okay? But I'm saying this because a lot of you out there do not understand how to make those connections. You're afraid, you're introverted, you'd rather text. I'm telling you, just because a lot of people do it doesn't mean it's the best way to maintain relationships. All right, that's my lecture for that. I'll get now to your comments. Okay, it is 12:33, and I'll stick around until 1 o'clock. I have dropped, you guys are talking about, I think, the PSL issue, right? The A's will come out of nowhere, and they're, what? 3 outs away from being 1 game out of first place. Wow. Tom Caller, hey, Tom says, breaking news, the Raiders are still months away from groundbreaking in Henderson. That's in the newspaper today. Something is going on. Money, you think? Because the Raiders, look, in fact, hey, Tom, where did you read that when you said that was in the newspaper? You mean the news website, right? John Acosta says, one more out in the ways win. Mr. Clean says, what's going on with Mac? I have a feeling, I still believe the Raiders have a money issue. Okay? And I think that the Raiders have, you want an update regarding the A's? Let me see here. Oakland A's. How about Oakland A's? Oakland A's, let's see. Mariners 2, A's 3. The A's are 71 and 48. Let me click on this. It's the top of the 9th. Let's click on this and see what's happening. And trying to find, see if there's a, oh, there's play-by-play right here. All right. I got the play-by-play open, folks, all right? So I got the play-by-play here. It's game day. And they've got, let's see here. Blake Trinan, Mike Zumo at bat. And, yeah, top of the 9th, 0-0, 2 outs. And Seattle 2, Oakland 3 with the A's. Blake Trinan is pitching. And then Mike Zunino for the Mariners is at bat. All right, so I'm just going to lay that over to the side. So I have it I have it up for you. You know, you can hear me talk about that. All right. Now, getting talk about that. All right. Now, getting talk about that. All right. Now, echo. Let's see here. All right. The Raiders are considering A's win. The A's just won. Yep. A's win. Ta-da! A's win. So there we go, folks. A's win again. Go A's. Athletics 3. Seattle Mariners 2. At the Coliseum in Oakland. A's win. The A's are now, get this, folks, 72 wins and 48 losses. The A's are 72 and 48. How about that? 72, wow. 72 and 48. How about that? 72, here we go. 72 and 48. The Astros lead is down to 1, as Rob Iman has pointed out. Very exciting, folks. Go A's, go A's. Now, Cowboy Wrestler writes, for the first time since 1994, the Raiders made their return to the LA Coliseum against the Rams Saturday. Review Journal, Tom Culler informs us that Review Journal is reporting that the Raiders only said they are in talks with Henderson, so it sounds like it's not at all. Now, the Raiders, you know, the Raiders got some money issues there. They really do. And then this whole issue, this whole news that I got today about the Raiders threatening to go down to San Jose. I got a call back from someone I can't say. Very well placed. Laughed. They said, well, don't know where you're getting your information from. I think they were actually afraid that I got it, okay? And then, I just listened. And then I listened to this person basically talk me into why what I was told by someone else who knows the same information is equally well placed in this instance, knew what they were talking about. And this person said, well, you know, Zenny, San Jose has really refurbished their stadium quite nice. It's small. It has 35,000 seats. But it's a great place to watch football. Okay. I got you. And so Rob Iman says the Raiders at San Jose would be as ridiculous as a Chargers at StubHub Stadium. But Rob Iman, here's the point. The Chargers were at StubHub Stadium and are at StubHub Stadium, okay? So as ridiculous as you say it is, they're doing it. Okay. My thought is, why would the Raiders be stupid enough to spend, you know, to move down there and not take up the Coliseum offer, which is on the table, not changing, and quite possibly lose money? It doesn't make any sense to me because, you know, look, they still have to spend money on security down there. Well, they have fewer people. You have a max out of 35,000. And we're not talking about, oh, it's just a preseason, right? No, we're talking about for 2019, 2020, maybe 2021. You're going to take that big of a haircut? Wow. Wow. Oh, what, just jack up the tickets? Wow. You know, that would certainly test the idea that basically the NFL club today doesn't really need fans to attend its games. Okay, well, let's test that. You know what? Let's have the tickets available to purchase, and then no one buys them. Let's see, you know, what kind of impact would that be on an NFL squad? That would be a fun simulation to run. Ooh, I think I'll do it. I think I'll do it. And then the other big news that I got is this. Oh, you say, why would the Raiders want to do that? Well, it's only if they get sued. Oh, boo-hoo. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The Raiders in the past sued the city of Oakland and then got sued, still played at the Coliseum. It wasn't like, well, if you sue us, we're not going to play there. Okay. Okay. And you heard Elihu basically laid the wood to Mark Davis. That poor white boy ain't got no money. That's what he said. Okay. You heard it. It was like, whoa. Dang. All right. Dang. All right. Wow. So, Jay Boogie says, we don't want the Raider element of Levi. Jay Boogie, I don't think the Raider element can afford Levi rent. So as much as you may not want the Raider element at Levi, guess what? Can't afford it. Can't afford it at all. I mean, no. Not at all. Not happening. John Mark says, wow, Elihu Harris laid some truth. He did. It was hard-hitting. It was informative. It was fun. It was Elihu in full. You ever heard of that term, a man in full or a woman in full? It was Elihu Harris in full. That's what it was. It was quite fun. Oh, here's the other news, folks. All right, you ready? Because I'm gonna make a separate post about this. Is gonna be the topic of conversation tomorrow. A friend of mine who's an investment banker took a look at a summary of the analysis that I did of the stadium bond issue with respect to the stadium tax, the hotel tax in Las Vegas. He said, what was the text? The text, how did it go? Oh, well, they're going to have enough money to pay for it because all they have to do is use property taxes. Though, I said, you just admitted right then and there that the stadium tax revenue is not large enough to cover the bond debt service. They have to dip into the general fund, which is what Clark County Finance Director Jessica Colvin personally told me would not happen. I have an investment banker who didn't want to have his name or his big firm's name used say to me, you know what? They're going to have to use property taxes. O'Day, just don't use our name. Just keep our name out of it. Capiche? So what I've been trying to say to anyone who even wouldn't listen, there are people in the industry out there who know that this is the case. You can tell me about projections, but I say to you this: you show me a hotel tax projection tied to square footage of expected, not dream, expected new development, and how that square and what the numerical throw off of tax revenue will be from those projections. You show me that. That's not going to be enough, folks. And not only that, it's going to be too little too late for debt that continues to grow year to year. Nope. Clark County, meanwhile, already laid off, what, 500 people, has, what, 120 million in deficit total? School district? Yikes. Oh, yikes. Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness. Wow. As my friend Time said, time will tell. I said, you know what? I think time already told. Just saying. I'm going to be out here at 1 o'clock. It's about, what is it, 12:46. So just before 1, all right? We'll be back with a normal show tomorrow. And watch what you wish in Vegas. Or what's the flip side of it? Be careful what you ask for, because you may often get it. Tom Kohler says, so yeah, it seems like there's no money. So what are the chances they stop the construction midway? I can't see that they would do that. They won't. In fact, I know they won't stop the construction. What they'll do is slow it down. And because you have to remember something, Tom. They're still collecting money from the bond issue, okay? And what they may wind up doing, and I think what may very well be really happening, is they may wind up slowing the construction down to give themselves more time to bank more money from the bond issue. All right? What they really should do, and if I were in charge of the whole thing, I would demand we do, is I would go to the legislature and I would say, you know what? We have a stadium tax. It's 88 and 100, it's 1%. It's not getting the job done. They just said, what do you need? Well, you know, we need an increase of up to 1%. We need a 1% tax. I said, else, this thing's going to wind up raiding our general fund. I think Las Vegas needs to have that kind of discussion, okay? Because the simple solution is to increase the stadium tax. And now they've got the thing. They should not half do it. They should really do it right, if they're going to do it at all. But Tom, your question is a good one, because it points to why the National Football League has not awarded a Super Bowl to Las Vegas, because nobody knows when the stadium is going to be finished. And when you start talking about pushing back or delaying construction in terms of a timetable, because that's what they're going to have to do, then you start yourself into a situation where you're saying, well, gee, you have people saying to you, where's that Super Bowl? And you're saying, oh, we're going to do it one day. One day in the future, we'll get it. When? Oh, maybe 2025. Maybe 2026. Maybe 2027. All right? That's the situation the Raiders find themselves in right now. Now, under those circumstances, the Raiders would have the ability to break the lease. Yeah. And maybe even stay in Oakland if it got to that point. It is getting to the point where very early on, the Raiders are going to be able to say that everything, and I warned Clark County. I said, look, I've been in this situation where we said we're guaranteeing PSL sales. Well, this time, oh, the bond issue is going to pay off for itself. They're going to have enough money. It won't cause a raid to the general fund. Well, it will. Okay. Because the tax revenue is not growing fast enough. And the Raiders don't have the sponsorship revenue they thought. But in particular, if the tax revenue is not growing fast enough, and you don't have that waterfall, and you're not able to help UNLV like you were able to, and then maybe the Raiders start fooling around and trying to think of ways to get more money from UNLV, which will piss off UNLV, right? All those possibilities are on the table. If the deal doesn't work, the Raiders can turn around and say, this isn't working, we want out. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I am saying that every day that this advances and you don't have clear financing questions answered, and you don't have a date for Super Bowl, and you start looking at the reasons for that, you get into a climate where the Raiders could say, you know what, this is not working out for us. Okay? Cowboy says, as an angry former Raider fan, I believe the sooner they move to Vegas, the better. Hey, you know, yeah. I mean, the way Oakland is going in terms of expenses, the athletes might be saying, you know what, Vegas is cheaper. I get that. All right, folks. As Ed said, all that glitters ain't gold. Or for that matter, 49 gold and scarlet. John Mark says, thinking on going to Vegas Raiders for game unknown Raider guy? Question mark. Hey, all I know is Las Vegas is a great place for steak. All right, folks. Good night. I'll see everybody later. Thank you for a fantastic show, and thank you very much to my boss, well, really former boss. Hey, if you're just coming into Zenny62, thank you. I'm signing off early tonight. Had Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris on at 8 o'clock. We'll be back tomorrow with, oh, by the way, what am I saying? Oh my gosh. Another special guest tomorrow. Another old friend, Christopher Dobbins, that's right, of the Coliseum JPA. The one and the same Chris Dobbins. Yeah, he's going to join us. So, come on back tomorrow, 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific, same bat time, same bat channel. Zenny62 live stream. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Thank you. And by the way, this is going to be up on Oakland News Now in a moment. About an hour. Hour and a half. All right. See y'all. Good night, everybody. Good night. Remember, watch Chris Dobbins tomorrow. See ya. And I'll announce it. See ya.